Welcome to the Donovan and Jorgensen Heating and Cooling Primetime Preps Football Pregame Show presented by Current Electric. I am Mike McGivern. Thank you so much for joining us. So week 8 of the high school football season is here, and we're going to bring you a game from the Parkland Conference between the Crusaders from Catholic Memorial and the Red Raiders from Tosa East. Both teams are coached by Hall of Fame coaches. Tosa East is coached by Tom Swittel. They're 4-3 overall and 2-3 in conference play, but there's so much more to this story. The Red Raiders have been hit by a ton of injuries, and if that was the only issue, I know that Coach Swittel and his staff could kind of figure that out. But add on that August 10th, their practice and home game facility, Hart Park, was destroyed by the floods. A lot of their equipment was destroyed that day as well. They now practice on the practice soccer field at Tosa East, which means they normally have to wait until the soccer teams get done with practice to get their practice in. They're playing their home games at Tosa West. Not exactly the kind of year that Coach Swittel and his staff had hoped for. We are now joined by the head football coach at Wauwatosa East High School, Hall of Fame member, Coach Tom Swittel. Coach, it's good to see you again. I guess I'm going to ask you how you're doing.
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
It has been a journey for you like no other, and we had a chance to talk quite a bit this week. And I'll tell you, Coach, if I were you, I wouldn't go play poker anywhere anytime
No.
soon. The luck is it's not been real Swittel luck here lately.
No.
Let's start with August 10th. That flood really did a bunch of damage. Where you guys practice at Hart Park, a lot of your equipment. It started the year out really obviously quite weird, and you and your staff have had to be extremely flexible and nimble to kind of get through this, correct?
Yeah, I went down to Hart Park. My curiosity got the best of me on that Sunday morning. I got a text from my athletic director, and he sent me a picture of a flooded Hart Park, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This was very early Sunday morning. So anyway, I get in my car and I drive down there, and Hart Park's a lake. It's got to be 3 or 4 feet deep. And I couldn't even get close to really the park. I'm kind of watching from the railroad tracks. And all I'm looking at is our building in which our locker room is. We dress, we do everything down there, and it is just enveloped in water. And all I could think of was our season's over. I mean, all our stuff's in there. Um, but anyway, so the water recedes. We finally get into Hart Park on Monday around noon, and somehow miraculously, the water did not seep into that building. So whoever built that building, whoever's the architect, whoever built it, they did a heck of a job. There was just a very small film of water that was on the floor. Nothing was damaged in there. So our helmets and shoulder pads, practice equipment, practice pants, practice jerseys, etc. It wasn't touched. But all of our dummies, all the things that we use on the field was lost. They were stored under the bleachers in a garage-like area. All of that was gone. So we didn't get a chance to get into the park until Tuesday. And then we got all our stuff and transferred it up to Tulsa East, where that's our new base of operation, is up at school. So we actually practiced on Monday that week in t-shirts, shorts, shoes. That's it. So,
Coach,
it's been that kind of year.
Yeah, a year ago, and we had this conversation. You said, look, we stayed relatively healthy. We're extremely competitive and really proud of that team a year ago. And we talked about karma a little bit as coaches. We get nervous with that. And
Yeah.
and this year's been a different story. I know every team has injuries, but you guys have gotten hit extremely hard.
Yeah, I've coached a long time, Mike, and I've never had a season like this. I can't even tell you the number of games that starters have missed. It's just too many to count. Serious injuries. We've had 2 players carted off the field with their head immobilized. into the ambulance, to the hospital during games. We've had broken collarbones. We've had bad MCL sprains. I mean, we've run the gamut of injuries.
And
And what it's
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Coach, when you have taught me this, Joe Cook taught me this, that football totally is a numbers game. And when these kind of injuries happen to some programs that have, 90 guys on the sidelines, a little bit easier to come back from. Tosa East, you're not yet at those kind of numbers that we're
Yeah.
talking about. And so you've got guys that either have to go, both sides of the ball, and you have plenty of those, but then some guys that you thought would be playing JV this year are now suiting up and getting a lot of time on the varsity team at Tosa East.
Yeah, we've dipped into our JV2 roster a little bit to fill some gaps. Um, we're playing sophomores and even freshmen, and um, for the most part, they've done fine. We've done the best we can and keeping our stuff simple. And like I said, for the most part, they've done a nice job given the circumstances.
Hey, Coach, a few of the players that the people are going to watch our game again, 7 o'clock tip off is Tosa East Place Catholic Memorial. Louis Fox is a junior quarterback, defensive back, but he runs that huddle. Feeling pretty good about how he's progressed this year.
Yeah, Louis, this is his third year starting for us. He was forced into being our quarterback as a freshman my first year back at Tulsa. We didn't have anybody else. And so he was the only one that had any kind of quarterback experience. I did have a senior that year that played quarterback the year before, but he didn't want to play quarterback. So Louis, inherited that. And Mike, from your experiences coaching, when you put somebody in there that perhaps isn't ready for that, you worry about his development being retarded in some way. Um, and Louis took a beating that year. Um, Last year was obviously much better, a way better football team around him. And one of the reasons I went to the wing T because I didn't want a quarterback centric offense. I needed an offense that if, a quarterback goes down, we can just put the next guy in. But Louis' development has been really good, and we're at a point now where we've added things to our offense, things that we weren't doing last year, simply because Louis can handle it now. He's really understands what we're trying to do. He even this past week he audibled at the line of scrimmage and got us into a great play that we needed. And yeah, his play has really improved. But again, he's a 3-year starter, and he's improved physically too. He's a man now, whereas a freshman he was a boy.
He was a young boy. Hey,
Yeah.
really quickly as we wrap up, Zion White is a running back putting up good numbers, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Andre Jones having a really good year for you.
Yeah, Andre, returning first team all conference players as Zion is, and Andre's just like the heart and soul of our lines. He's just a tremendous um, player. Um, this kid he's not big, but he squats 550 and he benches 350. And he's just strong as heck. State wrestler. He went to state last year in wrestling, and yeah, he's having a really, really good year.
Hey, Coach, I look forward to seeing you on the sidelines. It's always good to catch up with you. Again, you might not want to play. I may call you this weekend to play poker because where you're at right now, I think I got a chance to beat you with the luck that you've had. I really appreciate it. On the other side of the break, we're going to be joined by Coach Bill Young from Catholic Memorial High School. This is the Donovan and Jorgensen Heating and Cooling Primetime Preps Football Pregame Show presented by Current Electric only on My 24. Welcome back to the Donovan and Jorgensen Heating and Cooling Primetime Preps Football Pregame Show presented by Current Electric. We're getting you ready for kickoff as the Crusaders from Catholic Memorial take on the Red Raiders from Tosa East. We are now joined by Hall of Fame coach Bill Young, head football coach at Catholic Memorial. Their Crusaders are 6-1 overall, 5-0 in the Parkland Conference. They've won 6 in a row after dropping the opener to Franklin. Coach Bill Young, how you doing today, sir?
Good, Michael. I'm, excited about the game.
You know, we talked to Coach Swittel, a lot of stuff going on over there at Tosa East, and I know that there are things that as coaches you kind of feel sorry for the other guy with some injuries, but man, you can feel for them with the flood and the stuff that they've gone through and having to practice on that soccer field. You know, as coaches, we've all been through some things, and certainly Coach Swittel and staff doing the best they can over there.
Yeah, it's a tragic situation, with the flood of Hart Park, and then I know they lost a lot of their equipment, and I know Pete Fox, their offensive coordinator, played for me. Just a wonderful friend of mine, and I know Tom is a terrific coach, and he's done an amazing job turning adversity, with the flood and late practice times. It's a mess. And Michael, you know this from all the years you coach hoops. We're football coaches, basketball coaches, any coach. You're creatures of habit, and you want it the same every day, and that's a lot to overcome. But I know they're going to give us their best shot.
No doubt. Coach, let's talk about this year's team. Feel pretty good about where you guys are at this point?
Yeah, we are a work in progress. We lost the opener against Franklin. We lost by 3-6. We had a tackle in the end zone for safety. We had a defensive score. We gave up one drive. Franklin is an outstanding ball club. We just came up a little bit short, but we played a lot of sophomores last year, and we're junior loaded on this team. We have several outstanding seniors for us, but I like the progress we're making. Each week, we're showing improvement, and that's what you're looking at. That's what our staff wants out of our kids. Do a little things a little bit better every day. And if you do that, you got 9 competitions, you're guaranteed 9 games. And we look forward to competing against Tosa West. It's the most important game of the schedule, just like every week. Turn the page. What happened before doesn't matter. What happens this game, it's the season's on the line every week. That's how we approach things at Memorial.
Hey, Coach, before we get into some of the players that are really leading this team, has that attitude as far as look, it's 1 week at a time, and let's look forward and not back. As far as the years that you've coached, has that changed? Your mindset changed for you, and have you been able to, the longer you've coached, to let some of the bad weeks go?
Yeah, you have to, but like you have what 40 years of coaching basketball, and it's not the big wins, it's the big losses, and you draw from experiences in the past, and then our attitude is new week, a new game. That's your total focus on. You want to go 1-0 every week, and that's been my mindset. This is my 52nd year coaching high school football, 48 as the head guy. And, I've been blessed to meet a lot of great coaches and coach so many wonderful kids and pride. And it's what really keeps me going in my life right now.
And that's awesome. Coach, some of the players, for the people that are going to be watching, 7 o'clock tip-off, again, Memorial in Tosa East, that are really making this team go. You have a sophomore quarterback that, like, not a lot of sophomores have started at quarterback at a place like Catholic Memorial over the years, but Dalton Steinke is a kid that is playing pretty well for you right now.
Yeah, it was Tosa West. He was 12 out of 15 for a $188. And he threw, I believe, 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns. He's a really great kid. He got banged up in the Tulsa West game, and he wasn't able to practice as much as we wanted him to get ready for our last opponent against Ike. And he's back. He's a tremendous kid. He's a three-sport athlete. He's awesome in the classroom, great leader, and he's a terrific athlete for us. He's really done a good job. Scott Rice, our OC, has done a really good job with them. He's just going to be a really good, solid player for us as a young kid.
Hey, Coach, another player, junior running back, Devon Williams, is putting up some pretty good numbers for you guys. And he's a kid that you got to know where he is on the field. He's having a good year for you, correct?
He ran out of running backs after last year, and we converted. Devon was a slaughter or an X for us, and he's got great speed. He set the school record in the 200. Josh Regent-Smith, our running back coach, and Hubba, our O-line coach, have done a great job of working the inside zone. We struggled at the start of the year, and it's like you, Michael, all the years you coach hoops. It's how you perform in big games, and we always talk at Memorial about complementary football, offense, defense, and special teams. And Devon, I would say 3 weeks ago, we met as a group, and I challenged the offense, on the inside zone. With the productivity for the amount of times we ran that play wasn't very good. And Josh and Hubba did a great job. We spent 40 minutes on Monday and Tuesday cleaning that up, and we're starting to get much more proficient at that play. And then with the idea that you could go zone read and pull it, speaks to volumes about Dalton, how smart he is. But Devon has really come on. You're going to struggle at it at the start, and now he's figuring it out. And as a result, he's really starting to play well for us, which we need.
Coach, I really appreciate your time. It's always good to see you. Looking forward to seeing you on the sidelines tonight. I really appreciate it. Hey, as you know, I hope all is well with you and your family. And good luck tonight against a pretty good Tosa East team.
If the public doesn't know what you do for high school sports, you are truly an ambassador. You're awesome.
Man, I appreciate that, Coach. Thank you very much. We're going to get to a break. Other side, we're going to be joined by Brandon Preiss. He's the president of the Germantown Youth Football Club for the AAYFL Spotlight segment. This is the Donovan and Jorgensen Heating and Cooling Primetime Preiss Football Pregame Show presented by Current Electric, only on My 24. Welcome back to the Donovan and Jorgensen Heating and Cooling Primetime Preiss Football Pregame Show presented by Current Electric. Getting close to kickoff for the Catholic Memorial versus Tosa East matchup. Before we send you over to Terry Kelly and John Weiser, let's talk to Brandon Preiss. He's the president of the Germantown Youth Football Program in our AAYFL Spotlight segment. Brandon, it's good to see you again. How you been?
Been doing great. Thanks for having me. How you been?
Been doing really good. Hey, talk to me about the Germantown Youth Football. How are the numbers? How many coaches involved? I know it's a really healthy program because I saw it firsthand when I was out a couple weeks ago to give the Germantown 8th grade team our AAYFL Team of the Week. I looked at all the different teams practicing, and it looks to me like it's very healthy in Germantown.
Yeah, I mean, we got pretty good numbers. We've been around 130 to 140 participants the last 3-4 years, and it's kind of held around there. We got about 25 to 30 coaches a year, depending on how many teams we have. This is the first year we've had one team at every level in a while, but a couple of those grades are right on the cusp of having two teams, and hopefully we can get back to a couple teams, 5th and 6th grade levels in the future.
Yeah, I hope so too. Hey, talking to Greg Clark, who is the commissioner of the AAYFL, he had told me about a committee that you're on, and I know from the radio show I do in every sport, we're trying to attract younger officials to come in and look at this as a part-time job get back on the field, get back on the court. And I know you guys are doing a lot with trying to find young officials, correct?
Yeah, we're trying to reach out, and we got a little bit of a training program we're doing now. We're trying to get those younger kids involved to get into the profession at a younger age, because obviously it's an aging profession. Um, but yeah, what we're doing is we're doing training refs. We're paying these, younger kids to get involved and to put them in action right away with a crew, so that they can get trained. In fact, like I said, we've had, out of our first 5 games this year, we've had 2 of the weeks we've had training refs. One of them I believe was like a 17-year-old, so getting into it at a really young age. The other one I believe was in his mid-20s, and they're at different levels. One of them has been doing it a half a year. One of them was brand new, but it's good to get them in, and get them trained and get them acclimated with what's going on. And I mean, it's good money. Let's all be honest. I mean, these guys are getting good money now, so that we can attract them and keep them in our program.
I think what a great idea from the committee that you're on to have young guys be around guys that have been doing it for a while, because the older referees will talk to the coaches, and certainly if need be talk to the players and the parents to say, look, we're just training this young guy where he's going to do the best he can. If you have any questions, come to me. I've been doing it a long time, but I think that's a really good move on the AAYFL's part to get them in and have them kind of go through what it takes to be a football referee, but then surround them with guys that have been doing it a long time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, most of the refs have been doing it a long time, so these guys can explain their experiences and how to handle all the situations that come up in a football game.
Hey, Brandon, before we let you go, you've been around youth sports for a long time and high school athletics. When people ask me, do you miss coaching? I miss coaching in big games. Some of the other stuff I don't miss. When you're trying to find volunteers, things like that. How are things in Germantown as far as getting volunteers to come in and help you guys run this youth program?
Yeah, I mean, we have good help, and within the program with doing a lot of things. I mean, we choose in Germantown to work with high school football players on the different levels at the high school. We have 6, 7, 8 guys that come in and work. We pay them. It's part of what we want to do as a program, is pay some of those high school kids to, if it's working in the concessions, doing filming, scoreboard operators. So we got lots of help.
Yeah, I think that's great. Brandon, it's good to see you. As always, keep up the good work in Germantown. Say hi to Jake Davis for me. On the
Will
other
do.
side of the break, we're going to turn it over to John Weiser and Terry Kelly as the Crusaders from Catholic Memorial take on the Red Raiders from Tosa East High School in a Parkland Conference matchup. This has been the Donovan and Jorgensen Heating and Cooling Primetime Preps football pregame show presented by Current Electric, only on My 24.